This article review is on an article entitled Using Social Networks to Enhance Teaching and Learning Experiences in Higher Learning Institutions. The author began by reviewing the previous research that has been done on social networking sites and learning. And what he found is that many studies have been done on the use of single social networking sites, primarily Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, in academic learning, but very few studies, if any, had been done on integrating features from multiple social networking sites into one platform and then using that in e-learning. So the goals of the current study were to, first of all, determine significant factors that affected the use of social networking sites that were perceived to be associated with academic benefits. In other words, the researcher administered a questionnaire designed to look at factors that made students want to use social networking sites in learning. And then the second part of the study focused around designing and assessing a new e-learning platform that incorporated features from multiple social networking sites. In the introduction, the author also looked at the theoretical framework behind the factors that he identified to be tested. And essentially, when people are thinking of moving from one environment to another, there are three different kinds of factors that might contribute. There are push factors, which is, in this case, people's current e-learning perceptions. In other words, how happy are they with their current e-learning platform? There are also pull factors. And in this case, the researcher looked at academic reasons, so the academic benefits that people saw, ease of use, how easy was it to use, social networking, so the ability to connect with students and teachers, convenience, having everything in one place, and finally social influence. So what kind of effect did the influence of family and friends and professors have on students' likelihood to use social networking sites? And then finally, the last kind of factor was what's known as a mooring factor. Those are factors that make people unable to make a decision. In this case, it was barriers to using social networking sites. The questionnaire that was developed was 47 items. Every item was assessed on a Likert scale, so 1 meaning strongly disagree and 5 meaning strongly agree. And each of the items assessed one of the factors that were identified on the previous slide. Examples of statements on the questionnaire included, I am satisfied with the current e-learning facility in my university/college. And this would be an example of one assessing a push factor. So if students respond that they're dissatisfied, that might be something that might push them to turn to social networking sites for added academic benefits. A second example was, I use social networks to meet people of the same field of study. And that might be a pull factor, things that would attract people to using social networking sites. And finally, an example of a mooring factor would be, I enjoy working alone. Social sites distract my attention. So that might be something that might keep someone from making a decision to move to using social networking sites. The respondents for this questionnaire were 455 students and lecturers recruited from Malaysian universities. And these respondents were recruited largely through email and through Facebook postings. In the analysis of the responses to the questionnaire, 5 factors were found to be significantly associated with teaching and learning benefits. The first being academic reasons. And that would make sense because if students found academic reasons for using social networking sites, they would definitely see academic benefits as well. The second was ease of use. Students wanted whatever site they were using to be easy to use and not complicated to figure out. The third was social networking. So students valued communication between students, with other students, and with lecturers. They also looked at current e-learning perceptions. So many students in the questionnaire were unhappy with their current e-learning platforms, and that might be something that would push them to turn to social networking. And then finally, convenience was a factor as well that was significant, and that means having a single point of access, being able to log onto one system and have access to a variety of functions. All of the significant factors were pull factors except for current e-learning perceptions, which was a push factor. And in the second part of the study, the researcher took those factors that were found to be significant and used them to design an e-learning platform called Book2U. And the picture shown on this slide is a screenshot taken from the article, and this is a screenshot of the portion of Book2U that focused specifically on the social networking aspect of it. So this part of it was looking at discussion forums. Book2U incorporated ease of use, so it was a simple interface, convenience, because you logged onto one system and had access to all of its features. Academic reasons, because it was being used in an academic course, in this case a computer science course. And then finally incorporated aspects of social networking, so discussion forums and chat. The program was implemented for 6 weeks with a computer science course, which included 1 lecture and 14 students. And after those 6 weeks, the 15 participants rated the 4 factors listed above on a Likert scale. All scores were 4.0 or above out of 5, and the highest score was the one for social networking, which was a 4.70, which showed that respondents were fairly happy with the social networking aspects of of Book to You. In the general discussion, both parts of the study were discussed, and for the questionnaire, the conclusion that the researcher came to was that most respondents felt positively about using social networking sites in e-learning. And in terms of the Book to You questionnaire portion of the study, most respondents rated Book to You very highly. The author did note a couple of limitations, mostly having to do with the Book to You implementation. It was tested on a 14-student computer science class, and because they were computer science students, they may have been more computer literate than your average student, and therefore might have rated it more highly than other students might have. In addition, it's obviously a very small sample size, so the platform needs to be tested with larger classes. In terms of the critique, there were some issues with this article. So first of all, in the introduction, the author made a big point about saying that previous research hasn't focused on integrating features from multiple social networking sites, but then when we looked at Book to You later in the article, the only aspects of social networking sites that it included were chat and discussion forums. And if the goal of the study was to include features from multiple social networking sites, that doesn't seem like a comprehensive use of features from multiple social networking sites. After all, you can chat and discuss things on Facebook. In addition, the literature review lacked some detail about how social networking sites were used in the studies, so it was kind of a summary of studies without getting into detail. And so a little bit more detail there would have been good to know what context the social networking sites were being used in these studies, and what the situations in the studies were. And then the section with the hypotheses was a little bit confusing. The author spent the literature review making it sound as if he expected there to be a relationship between the factors he was studying and academic benefits, but then the hypotheses for the article were that no relationship would be found between those factors and academic benefits. So that was a little bit confusing. In terms of the method, there was statistical testing done on the questionnaire items that were shown to be internally consistent. However, there was a lack of clarity and explanation of how each factor was measured with questionnaire items. I gave a couple of examples earlier in this presentation of questionnaire items, but it might have been more effective to see the full questionnaire to fully understand how these factors were being measured. And then in terms of Book to You, one of the main questions that I had on reading this was, how did Book to You incorporate features from multiple social networking sites? As I already commented, incorporating chat and discussion forums didn't seem like it was really meeting the goal of the study. And then there also wasn't really a discussion of how Book to You was different from other e-learning platforms that were already in existence. And so that could have strengthened the study as well, so that we could have seen that this was something genuinely new. In terms of results, the results for both parts were reported clearly in tables with accompanying written explanation. Something that was a little misleading at first glance was that because the initial hypotheses were that factors would not be associated with academic benefits, the phrase "not supported" meant that there was an association. And so when you're looking at the table very quickly, it made it sound as if there was no connection, but in reality it was the opposite. And then in terms of the discussion, one of the issues I found is that the author failed to make a distinction between perception data and increased student achievement. And what I mean by that is the study covered perceived academic benefits. Students thought that there would be some sort of positive effect from using social networking sites. But the study didn't actually show that there was more learning occurring as a result of using these sites. However, the author's statements repeatedly indicated that the study showed that social networking sites led to increased student achievement, just based on the phrasing. However, the study showed only that they perceived social networking sites to have a positive effect, not that they actually had a positive effect. If anyone is interested in looking at this article, the reference is given here. Thank you for listening to my presentation.